Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Chronicle podcast. I'm your guys' host, Dakota Morgan, coming to you from Phoenix, Arizona. Today, we have a very, very fun guest on the show today, Steve Orlando. You know, big famous comic book writer, Martian Manhunter, Wonder Woman, Supergirl, all sorts of jazz, like so much more, to be honest with you, and so many new things coming up. We talk about that later, but my God, we talk about a lot of fun stuff. We talk about comic book writing, how comic books are teamwork. We talk about staying positive and positivity and less fighting and jazz like that among communities. All sorts of jazz like that. So, folks, I do want to say is make sure you guys subscribe on whatever you listen to, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, comicchronicle.podbean.com. Subscribe on there for new episodes every Monday, whether they're interviews, which we do mostly of, interviews, we do our reviews, we do some very special talk show segment stuff. We do a lot of fun stuff on the podcast, mostly interviews, but really, really fun time with Steve here today. And make sure, folks, you guys can follow me on social media at Dakota Morgan 3 on Twitter and, of course, on Instagram at Dakota_Morgan 97. And if you want to catch me live on Twitch where I play video games, go ahead and catch me live on Twitch, Codarex 97. And on YouTube, Dakota Morgan, where I do dinosaurs, toys, podcasts, a lot of animal stuff on there, so many video games, all sorts of jazz like that. Dakota Morgan on YouTube. Make sure you guys subscribe on there for even more content that I do. And yeah, hopefully you guys have been doing well, staying safe out there. It's pretty chaotic even in 2021. So please stay safe, stay healthy, wear a mask, all that sort of jazz like that. And stay positive. So without further ado, though, let's dive right into My Little Duck with Steve. And yes, we're recording. Now, Steve, I wanted to save this. I really wanted to tell you this when you answered the phone, well, when you called. Steve, man, you are the most peaceful person I know on Twitter.
I'm only laughing because I swear a lot often, and I tend to have strong opinions. So what do you mean?
I don't know. It seems like, I don't know, like it's not, so maybe peaceful is the wrong word, but it seems like the most nicest, and I think, I mean, to me, I'm a very desensitized guy. I mean, you really have to be to work with carnivores in life, but it's one of those things where it's like I enjoy so much your Twitter feed because it one brings a little bit of joy. Two, I agree with you a lot on a lot of stuff you say. So I'm like, you know what? Steve is a lot enjoyable. It's not you go on Twitter and you see all this negative crap, even from people they're usually positive. But it's like, you know what? I really enjoy this.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, yeah, I try to be at least as real as possible. I don't like everything, certainly. But you know what? People know what I like and what I don't like. And I just, I'm from upstate New York. I tend to be pretty frank about things, and I also just don't see a lot of point in. I mean, I kind of, when I do get into arguments or I do really get loud about something, it's something that matters. You know, at least that's what I try to do, because folks, especially now, are trying to not be bombarded with stuff 24 hours a day. They already can't get out of their house, so I'm glad to hear that. I don't take a lot of shit. I take the shit seriously that matters. But a lot of shit in comics that we think matters doesn't really matter.
You know,
at least in the way that people make it out.
You know what though? In fairness, especially in modern day times, with what we're fucking facing, Jesus. It's. I've often say people are like, oh man, how can you argue about this? I'm like, listen, it's either this or we argue politics and COVID and we get real dark and serious. I'm going to argue about whether or not Martian Manhunter is a good fit for Hawkgirl, okay?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I got to say too is actually I don't know, like it's been an interesting time to say the least in comics. Like I had someone asked the other day, and they said, "What is it like working in comics?" And I'm like, "Well, it's very interesting. How's it been for you recently? You said before we started, you hit kind of a wall. I mean, is it been kind of like that for a little bit for you?"
Oh, I mean, I'm just hitting a wall in life with the fact that I mean, I live in Boston. It's a high density city, and our numbers are not great. So I just, I'm lucky in that working freelance, I can work from home. I'm used to working from home. I've been doing it since 2015. But also, I definitely I'm missing, ever leaving the house other than walking the dog. So it's all like, we're all having to find new ways to sort of relax and give ourselves time off, because I think all of the normal things the things that please us before, at least in my case, I've done them all. I've done them all to death. It's like it's a good thing I have an extensive reading list because I've had a lot of time and I'm whittling it down, but not with comics. It's been a really good ever since I went freelance in right before this all started. I had given this article in Hollywood Reporter about how I was going freelance after 4 years exclusive at DC, and it came at the right time. I would say the interesting thing is I think in 2020, barring outside factors, I probably wrote and worked 3 times as much as I did in the years before, but I was like a third as stressed because it was all, for the most part, stuff that I created. And it was, it's just like you're pushing that creativity out, you're pushing those ideas out, and it's a perpetual motion machine for sure, but it's a good one. And the nice thing is that a lot of this stuff isn't even, they're not even books that folks know about yet. So there's a lot coming, and it's still going. I mean, the hustle is real. The next question is how can I find a day off every once in a while? But it's a job that I really like. It is a job. Be creative works are a job, but it's a pretty fucking great one. So
it's true.
I mean, I've been busy as hell, and you're always got to think about the next idea. Knock on wood, I haven't run out yet. But it's been a change. It's totally different from when you're on contract. But as I said, I've been pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, and I think that's the best way to go about things is to be surprised, be able to be surprised, which is a way to put it, I suppose. But if you go about it like, oh, it's going to be this, this, and this, and this, you will be proven wrong so many times, especially in comics. Like, also, power to you for going freelance because there's people I know who want to, but they've never been, I won't say names, but they've never been able to take that step because they've been too afraid to. So power to you, man. Like, that's awesome.
Well, I mean, thank you. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if they're afraid. I mean, there's a lot of factors that go in, so I understand that impetus to say that. But I just want to say, like, it is, you're betting on yourself, and it can be challenging. It was. I mean, it was frightening for me too. But at the same time, you don't want to be. You don't want to get too comfortable because that sort of takes the power out of your hands with in any work situation. So I mean, like I've worked for DC since I went off contract there, and I probably will continue to. But I don't only have to. I don't solely depend on any one place, and there's a lot of freedom for that. But you don't because you don't want the folks that you work for to know you've got nowhere else to go. Yeah, it sort of is. It doesn't really help in the bargaining. So it's honestly been top to bottom a positive year, and even with DC, as I said, because now I know that if something did happen. I can make it without working there, but also it's been nice to be welcomed back for stuff that, again, you'll see soon enough.
Sweet. I mean, I have to say something here, and it's a kind of a weird thing, but did you ever own a Redbubble store?
Redbubble? No, I have a TeePublic store, but not Redbubble.
Okay, it was TeePublic, because if I remember correctly, I'm actually looking at one right now. I believe it's your T-shirt, actually. I bought one from you, the page one, panel one.
That is my shirt, yeah.
Yeah, I got one, actually. I meant to say it's an awesome shirt, and I've sent people to your store before about it. That's why I was like hoping we could do the video thing, but I was like, oh, damn it, and Zoom's not been working. It's been glitchy as hell for my computer. And but I do actually have one of your shirts, believe it or not.
Well, I appreciate it.
Of course, man. Of course. And it's an awesome shirt. People really like it. Yeah, that's good, though. That's honestly, you couldn't say it any better, is to be able to go work for all this stuff and be able to work at DC, be able to work wherever you want. It's kind of the dream.
Yeah, I mean, it's you got, as I said, you have to keep hustling. It is always different, but yeah, it is. It's been really nice to know that I don't owe my ideas to any one location and things like that. As I said, a change, but a good one, and I think I was getting a little comfortable too, and that sort of, you got to rebel against that.
Yeah.
You got to rebel against it because that once you get comfortable, your ideas can get stale. You start to just sort of like double down on the things you've already done, and it's not good for anyone.
It's true. It's true. I mean, I got kind of a thing is I've been asking fellow writers of mine, friends, and people I've had on the show, and I wanted to ask you, Steve, have you been able to come up with a lot of stuff? Like, have you found yourself doing more writing as kind of a therapy sort of thing in like quarantine world and then to now and sort of shit like that? Like, you're like, you know what? I'm going to take a break from the news, going to take a break. I'm going to go write something. Whether or not it gets published, whether or not it goes anywhere and such. Has writing been a therapy for you? Because it has for me. So I was kind of, and some people have been saying yay, some people have been saying nay.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated. I think that you want to talk about, I mean, to be frank, I haven't really had time to do things that I don't think potentially would be solely just for me. So with that, which I wish I did, by the way, but so with that said, it's a balance. It's a tightrope walk because you want to write about things that are important to you. And obviously that's going to involve things that are going on in the present moment, but also you're not, readers aren't paying to be your therapist. So like it's a line defined to write about things that matter and write about things that you're passionate about, but also not, you're still delivering a story.
Oh, yeah, that's what I was meaning. I was meaning like being able to escape into worlds and sort of thing like that. Not meaning like write out your problems in the story, but like meaning to be able to escape in the story.
Trust me, some people do that.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah, I mean, it's been nice. I mean, it's all, I think like many of us, it's been a year of disillusionment, and I think you're seeing that in my own work and work to come as well. And it's more just about how you find the story in that. I mean, a lot of Commanders in Crisis is about that, and more so. I mean, everybody thinks they know where it's going, but it's not going where people think so far, at least. So, like, it's about taking these ideas that you have and finding a way again to make them broadly appealing and broadly thought provoking. And I'm trying. I mean, especially as I said, with books like Commanders in Crisis, books like Project Patron, which is coming out from Aftershock, which is about the death and rebirth of a Superman, basically being a work, being an inside job, and there's a sense of disenfranchisement and disillusionment, certainly, but I'm still trying to find the hope there. By the end. I want to find the hope, and I want people to know that you can maybe find it in places that you couldn't before, because that's what I want to have happen. I don't want, I don't think, there's a tendency for me to just be like, well, things are shit right now. But honestly, I think we need to aspire higher. We can say things are shit, but then we have to consider how they might not be in the future, at least from my point of view. That's what I'm trying to do. Will it work out? Well, watch my 2021 releases and see what happens, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, that's the best way to do it is have the optimism, push forward, keep the hope on there. That's honestly the best thing you can do. And, try to put a little bit of good into the world. Shit, if I could just do comics full time mentally, I would. But, mentally it's like I want to put more in the world. Like, that's why I work with animals and do comics and the podcast and stuff. Like, put more good into the world and have the hope for later. And that's the best way to go about it. Work hard, get it done, and go about it as a peaceful kind of life, and I think people will find a little bit more happiness.
Well, we're trying. I mean, it's like I said, like, I don't even know if you have to, like, our obligation is necessarily to put good in. We just have to really, I feel like just saying things is kind of half the work, I guess is what I'm saying. And even if, even if your point is one that is not necessarily super optimistic, you want to show people how you got there. Maybe we're talking about the difference between art and story. You can, screaming from the top of a building is not a story, but it can be art. And I think that, we have to, especially now, we have such intense emotions. We want that outlet and we deserve it, but we also have the obligation to deliver, fully formed thoughts. That's our obligation as creators, in my opinion, at least. Everybody is free to disagree with me. And there's a place for just, as I said, like, provocative and, like, raw emotional art.
Mm-hmm.
There's a place for that, too. There's a place for everything right now. But where I've been at is on the narrative side. Which is good.
Which is definitely good, because the world is shaped by story, in a sense, we could say. And if you don't have story, you can't. I mean, shit. The stories have shaped everything and changed everything in people's lives since cavemen. I mean, just drawing stories up on the wall. So, like, people who say, oh, stories aren't important. It's like, no, stories are always important, people. I don't know what you're talking about here. Like, you always need a good story. And no matter if it's nonfiction, fiction, romance, or what it is here, it shapes more things. Like, I tell people, they're like, oh, people who tell me, oh, story doesn't matter. I'm like, look at pop culture and the world around you. You have Yoda oranges, okay? Like, Yoda's not an orange. Obviously, story matters because story affects everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. Well, I don't know who said that to you, but there's a point of view similar to that where I think folks don't even know that they're being sold a story. I distinctly remember going to. I don't even know what movie, but probably about 15 years ago, going to some movie with my father, and he was like, "Oh, well, I like movies from back in the day because they didn't have a message. These days, everything has to have a message." And the reality is, movies from back in the day had a message. It was just one that was affirming everything that he thought and didn't make him think about everything.
That's true. That's very true.
He brought up King Kong, the original one, as not having a message. Well, it definitely has a message. That message is racist.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes people don't really know what they're consuming, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not everybody's obligation to do a closed watch or a closed reading of everything, but I do think that sometimes they don't really realize what they're taking in.
It's very true. It's very true. Now I see why you're a better writer, Steve. Jesus. It's like, now I see why. It's very, very true. Oh, man. That kind of leads me into something I wanted to ask you is kind of like something, not personal, but something that I was kind of curious about was, why comics for you? Like, what does it in? Because I feel like you could be a really good novel writer, too. So why is it comics, man, that you chose to do it for, like, a passion and a career and storytelling?
I mean, I like the collaborative aspect of comics a lot, and that from top to bottom, it is. Every time you go on Twitter, all you have to see is people talking about how like artists aren't credited and all these things and how wrong that is, and it is wrong because realistically, like this is a collaborative effort, and we can't. And by the way, not just with your lives, but with your letterer, your editor,
exactly.
Your colorist, everyone involved. And so what I like about comics is like, yeah, ideas might start either with me or with me and the artist. Depending on like when I create your own book, it's really both of us from the beginning, for the most part.
Mm.
But that whole team is a series of vectors that leads to the final product that is not exactly what you imagined, and hopefully is surprising. Hopefully it's surprising and energizing to you, as well as, of course, readers who are getting into it. And so I like the synergistic aspect of it. It's risky. Making comics is risky. When you're doing a novel, for the most part, you control every single aspect.
Mm.
That's not the case here. It's not the case when it goes how it should be. Writers are not in charge, quote unquote, in comics, and I push back against anyone who acts like that. We're part of a team, and we might be the first to hold the baton. And it's actually important to remember we are the first to hold the baton. So we can't be here like resting on our laurels and like fingering our ass while people who need to do their work and eat, so they can eat and do their own thing, are waiting for us. So we have to remember we're part of a team, and that's a great thing. It means being, offering up more risk.
Hey folks, Dakota here with a little bit of an ad break, but this is one you definitely want to listen to if you guys are a comic fan, which you are if you're listening to the show. You guys like comics and you like reading them in person. Let me tell you, go to Drawn the Comics in Glendale, Arizona. This is not just a hype thing for this ad. Let me tell you, I've been going there for years. I've had Cam Brown on the show all the time. Such a good guy. It's such a good community. Everyone who works there, they know you. You get your box number. You get your thing. You get all you need to do there. You get your collectible toys, car, whatever it may be. Comics, it's all there for you guys. That's Drawn the Comics in Glendale, Arizona. Here's the address. 5801 West Glendale Avenue, Glendale, Arizona, in downtown Glendale. And if you guys want to visit them, you can visit them, drawntocomics.com, or find them on social media, and the number is 623-847-9090. You give them a call. Definitely, guys, I love going to the store. And this is not a fucking lie. I love going. It's so amazing. Thanks, everyone, and hopefully you guys check them out if you're in Arizona or maybe passing through. Remember, guys, Drawn the Comics. Go check it out for your books. Reading books in person is so much better than digital. But I love digital too, so it's a little bit of a toss-up. Support brick and mortar companies. We definitely need you to. Thanks, everyone. And now, without further ado, I'm going to take it back to future me.
It means things that you script might not turn out the exact way that you intended in your mind. But if you're not ready for that, in my opinion, you should be doing something else. I like that you are, when a team is working, you're essentially knowing what you can control, knowing what you can't control, and accepting it because you trust the people you're working with to do what they do best. And you want that from them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a reason, I not only credit artists, but on my creator owns, I cut in my letterer and my colors as well on ownership because they all matter. They're all part of the team. And you see that in my originals, books like Martian Manhunter. I was one of the first people that included actually my editors in a roundtable discussion in the back matter for that book because they're part of that too.
It's true. It's true.
So when everything works, you really are sort of like creative Voltron to make a comic, and that doesn't really happen anywhere else. And I've always been a fan of it.
That's the best. I'm not blowing you or anything. I'm telling you the truth on this. That is the best thing I've ever heard anybody say to that. Honestly, like it's 100% true. I'm sitting here like, God damn it, you're right. Like, also Voltron, very nice. It's really cool in that sense. You're absolutely right. Like, I think it's a misunderstood thing with comics and people like, oh, it's the writer and artist. Like, no, it is a team. Like, that's why I love that you've done that because there's so many people that go into it. It's not just a writer and artist. It's, God, I can't even tell you. I got like, I think 4 people on each book of mine. Like, and without them, it would fall apart. Like, everybody is integral to the position and the job. Like, that's why I've had inkers on the show before, and I've had letters on the show, and people are like, why'd you bring on these people? Like, because their job matters too. I wanted to find out more about what they've done for their own series or for big companies. Like, everybody's job matters in comics. And yeah, I really appreciate that, man.
Well, that's what I'm here for. And you it's my opinion. I'm sure people will disagree, but I'm here to say what I think.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Your opinion to me, I agree with your opinion because, man, it's true. And there's just some you've left me at a loss for words, and on a podcast, that's the best I have, right? But I definitely think that. And can you ever see yourself doing anything other than comics? So, like, maybe not novels, or do you think it's like, you know what? I'll do comics for a very, very long time.
I mean, I'll do them for a long time, but I'd love to adapt stuff for animation. I'd love to.
Ooh.
I mean, I'm especially in animation these days. I mean, listen, we all. I like, for the same reasons that I like comics, I like screenplay format for different reasons. Like I should say. So when I say for the same reason, I'm sounding like an asshole because they're for different reasons. What I like is that they each have their own unique possibilities, and they each have their own positives and negatives. But I love the sort of organic conversational tone that you get in doing screenwriting. So yeah, I mean, I would love to do that in the future. But I'm here to. I'm here to make comics. As long as I can afford to. I don't think I would ever not be working on some sort of comic. Because it is, I started trying to break in when I was 12 years old. I'm 35 now. So like it's already been more than half my life either trying to do this or actually doing it. And I don't think that's going to change, but I'd love to add other things in as well if the opportunity rise, for sure.
Cool, man. That's awesome. Like, and honestly too, I've been a part of a few screenwriting things, and the best, I miss doing it for when I've done it for films and other things as well. I can't really talk about NDAs, but writers' rooms are the best. They're the best. I love them so much. Like, just sitting around, you get a group full of people in there, fellow writers. You're all talking, the shooting the idea, shooting the shit for hours, and you got coffee all around, bagels sometimes, some food, and it's like creativity juices flowing. We're all throwing ideas, making stories, making things happen, and I don't know, writers' rooms. I miss those. I hate doing the video call ones, but being in person there, man, there's nothing like it.
Well, listen, the video call is the great equalizer for people who live in the East Coast and want to pitch in Los Angeles. So
that is true.
You want to talk about like a positive and a negative. That COVID has been terrible and will never not be terrible. It has also been an equalizer for when I'm pitching outside of comics, or even when I'm pitching in comics to people who can be in the room. Because now we're all, we all look the same. We're all a 3 by 5 square. And,
yeah.
You know, it's been a nice equalizer versus, you know, I've been pitching in the past, and it's been like a bunch of people in a room and me on a video. And you know, it's hard to get a word in many ways because everyone else there can play upon their facial expressions and things, and you can't do that when you're just a little screen. It's easy to ignore a screen.
So would you say it's a lot less stressful doing it on the screen through video call pitching?
I mean, no.
No.
Yeah. It's still stressful, but it is at least a boon to know that it's stressful for everyone in the same way. Because it's stressful, by the way, in the room. Like, it's just different.
Yeah.
You know, when you're in the room, everybody can see you like fidgeting and looking uncomfortable as well. So, as I said, there's positives and minuses across the board.
Hell, you don't have to wear pants either, so you're good. A little bit of relaxation, or you could just wear pajama pants.
Yeah, I mean, post Jeffrey Tobin, we gotta wear.
That's true. That's fair. That's very fair. You never know what's gonna happen. When I used to have my cat, I'd done video calls before, and it was look, I can't say what it was, but it was for a project. And I remember, like, all of a sudden my cat jumped on my chair, and he just starts meowing. I'm like, hi. Hey, guys. Well, you get to see a cameo from my cat, Jasper. Here we go. And those are always a little fun icebreaker moments, I think. But, yeah, man, I like it. I like it a lot. What I do believe this does matter, though, and you mentioned when you started when you were 12, man, and I think we've all started, all of us who work in the business right now, we all started when we were kids trying to break in or figuring out we wanted to do it. Like, what was that thing that inspired, like, 12-year-old Steve to get in the comics?
It was actually an editorial write-up about how they came up with Electric Superman.
Really?
I mean, that was the same time I was 12 in '97, and I just when they broke down how it all came together, I realized that I realized the collaboration, and B, I realized that the side of that I was most likely to be successful at was writing. You know, I am a visual artist a little bit, but it's not fast, and it's not what I enjoy the most.
Mm-hmm.
So because I've done everything related to making a comic. For my thesis in college, I wrote, illustrated, and produced a 100-page graphic novel.
Oh, wow.
I know how to do it all, but I also know now what I personally like to do the best. And that's how we got where we are now. So even back then when they were talking about it, about coming up with Electric Blue, I just wanted to be part of it. And that's when I started, at that time reading Wizard. And then I started going to Comic-Cons, and it all sort of fell together after that. I met Steve Siegel and Joe Kelly there, who were my mentors in comics the first year. And they were sort of like, every year I'd bring them a new script, a new idea, a new pitch, and they would tell me what had to be better about it. And eventually there was nothing to be better. It was ready to go, and they handed it off. But it took a long time, as they're quick to say, a lot of people never come back, and I always came back.
Which shows the determination that you really wanted to do it. Like, if you keep going back for more, and you're like, and you take the criticism and you make your piece better, like that's the way to go about it, man. Like, I think people oftentimes don't do that, and it's nice to hear that you did. Obviously you did, because now you are where you are, but that's awesome, man. And also Electric Blue Superman, though, really, like that's you don't often hear about it anymore, to be honest.
No, I'm always talking about him, but yeah, it's not for everyone. But I was a big fan. And I still am. I think it's a lit design.
It's true.
Story-wise, I mean, up for debate, but I do think it's a killer design. I'll go to my grave saying that. So,
what did you think about? This isn't a hot take question or anything like that, too, but I believe it was Lana Lane who became Superwoman, and she kind of looked like Electric Red Superwoman a little bit. Did you like that?
I mean, I liked giving Lana Lang a new position. I mean, that was in the same launch that I took over Supergirl. My friend Phil was writing that. So yeah, I mean, again, I think it's a great design. I love positioning Lana anywhere. I think that she was set up to be a very strong, inspirational character there. So I liked it. I mean, I brought Strange Visitor back in Supergirl because I love the blue costume as well. Yeah. So, I think that was a good time to see Lana get a come up. I will be honest, I actually don't know where she is now. But back then, I was a big fan.
Yeah, that's a character. I don't remember where she is now either. Don't feel too bad. That's a character who I think is so much untapped potential. People are like, oh, it's his old love interest. Like, no, wait, Lana's a very powerful, like, really cool person. Like, she's awesome. Like, she's strong-willed. There's so much untapped potential with Lana Lane, and I don't know. I think that you could do so much with her.
No, she's great. I mean, Superman is surrounded by strong female characters that I think are all incredible. I wanted to feature Lois Lane more when I was at DC, and it just wasn't possible at the time. But then she got a great feature with Rucka and Perkins, and I'm sure that will continue. I'm really excited for Elizabeth Tulloch to be her on TV as well. So I've always liked. I mean, Lana is great. Lois is great. Fuck, I would put Lori Lamaris in there if I play that. But we'll see if I ever go. If they ever let me back. Having said that,
yeah, I think you trust me. I think you're good. I think you're fine. I mean, if it does help too, I saw the. I don't know if you caught it or not. There was a new trailer for Superman and Lois that dropped today. It looked a new one. It was like the official trailer or something like that, and they released one earlier. But the new trailer came out, and man, it looks really. It looks good.
Yeah, no, I did see it, and I'm very excited to watch it.
Hey guys and gals, Dakota here with a quick little ad break for you. So folks, we always know the classic saying, wear your freak flag high. Now you can, because the Comic Chronicle podcast now has its own little merch line on Redbubble. That's right folks, we have our own little merch line with some fun little logos. Of course, our Man of Steel-esque logo for the Comic Chronicle podcast you can get on mugs, t-shirts, sweaters, posters, prints, all sorts of stuff like that on there. And of course, we sell some exclusives that you may be interested in this new world era that we live in. One of those designs we feature is the little branding called Vigilante in Training. Let people know when you wear your mask, or if you want to get a sticker version of the little iconic logo there, rough dick looking stamp on there on your mask that's blue, a little dark blue, Vigilante in Training. Or if you want, we have in a word bubble on there, trying to best to explain this on a podcast, and a word bubble, make comics not war. Get that on t-shirts, sweaters, posters, a mask, buttons, phone cases, all sorts of stuff like that on there. And of course, lastly, we have Blockbuster Kid. Take on the Blockbuster logo. You know, a lot of us, like myself, we grew up with Blockbuster. Or, you know, you're a semi-medium age adult and you like Blockbuster too. You want to support the past and keep a little bit of retro on there. You can do that too. Get your t-shirts, masks, buttons, stickers with Blockbuster Kid written on there too. You can check out the store for the Comic Chronicle podcast on Redbubble. And an easier way to do so is you can click the link in the show notes below. And that will help you guys and take you straight down to it. Go to Explore Designs and see what all the fun stuff we have for you guys. See the logos for yourself and support the podcast all in the same sense. I give you guys stuff for free, which is the podcast, and now we give you some merch. Wear that freak flag high, folks. So thanks for tuning into this episode. And without further ado, let's take it back to Dakota from the past.
No, straight up. I like the sort of moving them back to Smallville. It appears to that they'd be doing. Like I know very little about it outside as a viewer because I'm not really working there at the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to be a fan for it. You know, Superman is one of my favorite comic characters. He's not my favorite. My favorite at DC is Martian Manhunter and Wonder Woman, but he's probably one of them. So like I'm very excited every time to see him out there, and I think that Hecklin is a great Superman. So I'm very excited for that show.
Yeah, which apparently are fighting words these days. I'm like, I love him since he started as Superman because I love the Supergirl show. And when seeing the people like, oh, he's not good, I'm like, you need to get the fuck out of here because he's awesome. Like, he's got a really great suit. He portrays Clark Kent well. He looks Superman, and you know, it's all that sort of jazz like that. And
they shouldn't be fighting words. That's like a symptom of what we talked about earlier. Like, me liking something does not mean that someone else is wrong to not like it. Like, not like is not the same as good, good/bad. So, I mean, me saying that Hecklin is great, you know, he's a great version of what I see Superman as. I'm sure there's folks that, as you said, that are not into it, and that's fine. Like that's the reality of a character that's 80 plus years old.
That's
so
true.
You've just brought up something that I will never get hot about. Like I don't, you know, there's versions of Superman that I'm not a fan of. There's versions of Batman I'm not a fan of. especially Wonder Woman, because she's had such a diverse array of sort of motivations and characterizations that's always going to be something. I mean, there's folks that really want that warlike version of her. That's not for me, but there's a version of that is in line with her character still, and if you love it, then that's great. Like, we should be able to service everyone.
Isn't it kind of the beautiful thing of comics? Like, you have all these characters, but there's so many different versions of it. Like you just said, like, there's something to service everyone.
Well,
there's so many versions of the characters.
It has to. You can't break the core, but
Yes.
yeah, there are still myriad variations within that. Like, and I guess that's, certainly there are things that are just not that character.
Yeah.
But that's farther out of bounds than we're talking about. There's a reason that the Grim Knight is a multiverse Batman, because Batman isn't the Punisher.
It's true.
But that's the whole dark multiverse. They are made to be versions of the characters that are broken and out of character.
It's very true. It's very true, man. Well, I do want to say, though, we kind of hit the time limit, though, and I want to say thank you for coming on to the show. It's been kind of fun. Very enlightening episode, too, I think.
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
I'm always happy to talk. I think we think a lot about these things. At least I do. So I'm always happy about it. Like, it's very little work that comes out. Even though I'm working a lot, everything is chosen for a reason. So,
yeah.
I'm happy to come on to talk, and everything we talk about, what's important to me, what I'm passionate about. Like, look at what comes out this next year, and see what your take on it is. Like I said, I'm excited, especially for the ending of Commanders in Crisis, because it really is. I'm writing what I think what I want out of comics and what I think they need, and it's not what everyone else is doing, and that doesn't necessarily mean I'm shitting on what everyone else is doing, but there's a strong passion for deconstruction of superheroes right now, and I love a lot of them, but we also need a counterpoint, and this is a book that is proud to be a superhero book. It's weird, it's optimistic, it's aggressive, it's idealistic, and it's willing to ask questions. So we're going to get to the end of that probably before the next time we talk, because it wraps up in the fall. And I'm excited for people to see where it goes, because no one's guessed it yet. And it's going to be really fun when we all get there in October.
I love it, man. I love it. Is there anything coming out before that you want to promote, by the way, or send people to on social media and jazz?
Oh, I mean, yeah, there's a ton coming out. I think that well, first of all, Project Patron is my next launch. Project Patron is my next original launch, which is hitting in April, from Aftershock Comics, and that is, as I said, that's basically what if the death and rebirth of Superman was a complete con job, and the replaced Superman with a robot,
which is
nobody
awesome.
knew, and this is about the team of pilots that secretly pilot that robot. And then, of course, in March, my Marvel debut hits finally. Darkhold is on hold but not canceled due to the pandemic, and in the meantime, 50th anniversary of Man-Thing starting in March. I'm also doing a debut of a new host for Toxin with Gerardo Sandoval in Planet of the Symbiotes in March. And then soon after, we just announced I'm doing Magneto and the Mutant Force as part of this Heroes Reborn event that's coming on, I believe, in May. And that's going to be with Bernard Chang, incredible covers by Nick Bradshaw, Ryan Benjamin, and of course, Bernard Chang doing a spoiler cover that'll be released once the book is out. And it's a great time for X-Men in general, with Dawn, Reign of X.
Oh, yeah.
And this is its own thing, because we're set aside in the Heroes Reborn universe, but I'm super, super proud of it. It's an ode to one of my favorite X-Men issues, which is Quiet Psychic Rescue in Progress. It is not a silent issue, because we did have to sort of let people know what's going on in this event, since it's alter reality. But it's an ode to that. It's a rescue mission inside Magneto's mind for the last shreds of Charles Xavier with the team I'm super, super proud of. And Bernard is just an artist that, honestly, Bernard and I have been, we for 6 years ago, we talked about working on Ryan Choi, and now here we are doing X-Men. So it didn't go the way we thought, but I'm happy to finally be working with him. He's an incredible, incredible guy.
Oh yeah, and I saw that news and I was incredibly excited. I'm like, man, I'd love as a big X-Men fan, and I agree with you. It is a good time to be an X-Men fan. I was like, we can talk about it, and immediately thought, I'm like, no, there's gonna be so many NDAs on that. I'm like, no, shit.
Well, I mean, it's coming out, and everything I told you is all true. I'm very excited for that, and like I said, there's a ton coming. I have next month in March as well. The next issue of Heavy Metal, my sort of heavy metals version of a young adult book launches. It's called Starward, which is like a very sarcastic heavy metal Sailor Moon by me. I guess is what I would say. And I'm excited for that to come out. And there's launches that folks don't even know about. I have a launch in August. That's my first step into middle grade type books, and I can't say more about that, but the news will be out soon, and it's part of, I can't even say who it's with, but it's middle grade. I've never done that before. I'm super excited about it. Super emotional story, and it's the launch of an overall YA and MG line at a publisher, so a lot of faith put in me and my co-writer for that, and just really, really excited. I have a gay horror book coming out. There's a ton coming up, like I said, and it just keeps going, so it's a lot of hustle, but folks are going to get a lot from me in a lot of different spaces, and that's a good place to be.
You said I was busy, by the way. I don't know how the fuck you do it. I don't know how. Like, there's so much stuff.
Well, the answer is Boston Red, my friend.
Oh, yes. That will do it. That will do it. Well, thank you, good man, for coming on the show. Do you want to send people to Twitter or Instagram or anything like that for you?
Oh, that's right, yeah. So follow me on Twitter. It's @TheSteveOrlando, and that's also on Instagram @TheSteveOrlando. It's kind of a Venn diagram. Instagram is a little more health and fitness and a little less comics, and Twitter's the reverse. But you'll get both on both.
Fair enough. Sweet. Thank you, good man. And I'll let you know when the episode comes out, but you rock, okay? I can't wait to see everything that comes up from you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. And I will promote once we're ready to go.
Sweet. Thank you, man. You have a good rest of your day, okay?
You too.
Bye.